What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Neck, and I have an album review for you. Yet again, this one comes to us courtesy of Screaming Toilet. Again, fun site full of cool pop culture reviews and such. Definitely check it out. It's a good time, and plus we're there, so give us a like there too. So today I am reviewing Pyramido's new album, Femme. This came out on The Sign Records, I believe in late September. These guys are a doom/sludge band with little bits of post-metal in there too. They're from Sweden, they've been around since 2006, and they feature the original vocalist of Burst, which I was a big fan of when they were around before they went defunct in the mid to late 2000s, I believe. So that already had my interest, so I figured why not check out this band. I am also going to say I am sorry, I have to pronounce a lot of Swedish stuff here, and I'm probably going to do it really, really, really wrong. So, yeah, sorry. So the album opens up with Food till at Springa. I believe it translates to food to run. So you get a sense of the sound. It is definitely very sludgy, a very kind of organic, jammed in studio sound with a very prominent sludgy guitar sound throughout. But they play a lot of interesting doom metal riffs on here, which is kind of an interesting little contrast there. You get the overall sludge feel, and it's very drony, but you also get these very like token doom metal kind of riffs that you'd hear in bands like St. Vitus or Candlemass. Now the vocals are pretty much relegated to a almost kind of hardcore, post-hardcore growl, scream, shout, bark, what have you. And they sound very throaty, but not particularly processed, so they sound very natural on here, again adding to the whole jammed-in studio feel to this. The bass is actually very prominent on this too, which is generally something that seems to get mixed out of a lot of metal albums, but I thought it was actually really out in front, which sounded really good. A lot of the music on here reminds me of bands like Thou, in terms of these long, atmospheric sludge songs. But unlike Thou, this song seemed like it was leading into like this big crescendo or big moment or some cool transitions, but it really just kind of stagnated. It kind of just stayed the same throughout. And that kind of took me out of it. I was really expecting something kind of grand coming, and it kind of just flatlined. Now the next track, Levande Doda, which I think translates to Living Dead. I don't know. Either way, I probably pronounced it wrong, so hopefully I at least got the translation right. This song actually has a little bit of kind of a shoegazy feel to it. There's a lot of alternative to this, but it's still very heavy. It kind of reminded me of a combination of a band like Neurosis, and then throw in a band like Hum, which I don't know how many people are actually still really familiar with those guys, but that was one of the first bands I thought of. Now this one kind of started off like still very heavy, but it slowly moved into this very soft and actually kind of pretty midsection. There was a lot of really cool melody in here, and I thought this was a really dynamic moment that stood out. It shifted the whole mood of the song, and it became actually very calming versus the overbearing weight of sludge metal and its pure heaviness. I kind of liked this moment in particular. Now you get to hear the backup vocals on this song too a little bit more prominently, and honestly they don't add too much because the backup vocals are very similar to the scream that the frontman has. So again, it just kind of sounds like the vocals are doubled there. And next song, Utvagen, I think I got that right. I believe it translates to Resort or Last Resort. This one was the longest song in here, and this one again had those more alternative moments or even kind of post-punk or post-hardcore moments in there. There was stuff in there that reminded me of The Cure, to be honest, but at the same time brought in a lot of squealing feedback that you'd associate with bands like Helmet. Now this one I was really getting a sense of what this band does. They're not necessarily about big riffs, but rather favoring building atmosphere, which is really nice, and they do a good job creating an atmosphere, but the songs labor that point maybe a little too long, and instead of getting hooks, you're getting a really cool wall of sound, which is a cool dynamic in itself, but it really doesn't generate those earworms that I'm personally looking for. Now I think around the 6-minute mark they did have one part here I thought that was pretty good, where there was some layered guitar melodies with some really cool dissonant parts. And I generally like dissonant parts. They're kind of an interesting hook for me, but most of the song kind of lost me. Now, one of the tracks that actually stood out to me in a pretty good way was Fenrik Callback Sanger. I believe this song was based on an epic poem of Swedish and Finnish descent. I believe it was a war-themed poem, as much as I tried to look up on it. This one was a little bit more up-tempo and actually had a pretty distinct riff to go into it. Now, this one was a little bit more up-tempo and had a good solid driving riff behind it. I thought this song had a pretty solid hook right away. Now, there were some weird offbeat transitions in here that I thought that just kind of came across as a little knee-jerk. It was like the song was taking a pause to breathe when it really didn't need to. It just needed to keep driving along. But honestly, this was one of my favorite ones on the album just because it actually brought a really good hook to it, and it also still had that great atmosphere that they were already doing really well with. And that was kind of an issue with the album. There are interesting moments and some cool melodies that are kind of scattered about this, but there's not enough to really hold my attention because the bulk of it is sort of just droning along and building this desolate, sullen atmosphere, which again is cool, but you can have too much of a good thing. Another issue were the vocals on this, because they kind of get a little flat after a while. There's really not much of a range to the growl. It just pretty much stays in a straight up kind of post-hardcore bark. There are moments in here I think that maybe some clean vocals would have added to it. It would have conveyed a little bit more emotion, I think, or at least would have got the emotion behind these songs out, because you can really sense that there is an emotional outpouring to a lot of this stuff, and some of it is just kind of lost in, a blur of noise. Now, the closer, which is the title track, Femme, this one actually was one of my favorites on here because they changed around some of the song structure. This one started off very soft, had a nice isolated guitar part that had essentially wind and rain playing in the background, again building a really cool atmosphere. And the song really did a good job of slowly building up into a nice, more post-metal song, honestly. There was a really good layering of the guitars in here. While one was playing the main riff, there was a tremolo riff playing, but the tone of the guitar was almost very staticky, and it kind of added a really cool distant level to it. And it was a really cool effect overall. Like, I really got into that. There's some cool lead melodies, which really didn't pop up too much on this. Now, I thought this one was going to be an instrumental track because the vocals on this don't come until there's only a minute and a half left in the song, which I thought was kind of redundant. Why not let it be a cool standalone instrumental? Because there really wasn't much in the way of vocals. There were a few lines that were delivered, and then it started fading out. And it was really good. It was rolling along very well as an instrumental, and it just kind of felt like they just tacked on some vocals for, I really don't know what the reason, because I thought it was really good as is. But that song was particularly good on here, and again, they balanced some really cool songwriting tricks with really good atmospheric building, and this was a definite standout for me. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. It has some really cool moments on here, and again, it's great at building atmosphere, but it's not as good at building memorable songs or riffs. There are some songs here I think that are particularly good, and they stand out because they have some dynamic moments, some earworms, some things that really stick out about them. But the rest of them, sometimes they just sort of drone along, and it really doesn't do much for me. It's got to be able to hold my attention. I am curious about their other releases, so I definitely will check them out if I actually come across them again. But yeah, this one really didn't do it for me, but again, I'd like to check out more by these guys. So, if you like the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do shit like this all the time. Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.